Happy Friday. I hope everyone is having a fun day already for Friday. And I am super excited because I have been admiring this guest for a long time and she's been on my radar. And when I finally got a chance to speak with her, I was not disappointed at all because she definitely lives up to her reputation here in the sector. So please join me in welcoming Alicia Lomas to Mavens of Manufacturing. Alicia, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing really well. Happy Friday, and I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, so I know a lot of people are connected with you on LinkedIn because I've heard your name through the ringer a couple of times where everybody's like, you have to connect with Alicia, you have to follow her and get connected with her. And I was just super excited to connect with you. But can you give everybody a brief overview of who Alicia is for those of us tuning in that might not know you? And if you're tuning in, please drop comments in the comment section below too. I like having everybody engaged. So if you have questions for Alicia while we have our conversation, don't be afraid. Drop those in the comments and we'll pull them up. But Alicia, who is Alicia and how did you get involved with engineering and manufacturing?
Yeah, so I studied chemical engineering and kind of just pushed myself out into whatever job I could find right out of school. And I ended up in food and bev. And that has kind of been my foundation where I was kind of taken under two engineers' wings at Daisy Brand, where they taught me controls. They taught me process design and controls from scratch. They really put a lot of faith in me and let me run and learn it and get really passionate about it, and then continued on my career. I worked at a lot of different places, and I think that has been something that has helped me kind of see so much in manufacturing, because I've done battery recycling, food and beverage, renewable energy, a little bit of aerospace. So being able to see all those different aspects of manufacturing has really helped me get a broad range of what's out there and understand what's good, what's bad. And more recently, I decided to go out on my own. So I've worked in established companies, startups, and now I am consulting, trying to help a large number of companies with their architecture on their control systems, data collection, all of that stuff, even getting factories running. So I like to not be pigeonholed in a box. I like to do it all.
That's really cool. Well, can we go back a little bit further? So like when you were going through high school and everything, was engineering on your radar? Was that like something you wanted to pursue on purpose, or did you fall into it by accident? Because I've talked to a lot of women and some of them are like, yeah, I was really good at math and science. So I had a family member that was an engineer, so it was something I pursued, but then they didn't know how vast engineering could be. Like there's different types of engineering. So then they had to figure out that journey. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, it was similar, good at math and science, and had a lot of teachers encourage me. And I was very competitive. So fighting to be the valedictorian and win all the prizes and scholarships and all of that. And then I was in organic chemistry in high school, and
Okay.
the teacher was like, you really get excited about chemistry, but you should be a chemical engineer. There's a lot more jobs. You make more, this, that, and the other. I think that'd be really great for you. And so he just kind of encouraged me. So from like 10th grade on, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a chemical engineer. I don't really know what that means, but I'm going to be one.
So with the controls portion of that, is that something that is in line with chemical engineering, or is that something completely separate?
When you get into chemical processing plants, having somebody that understands the process side and the process design and the controls is a really valuable combination. So I would say it's not always common, but there's a lot of us that do ride the line, because a controls engineer that doesn't understand the process both mechanically and chemically is not going to be a great controls engineer, because you have to be able to think about all the things that can happen. And it's not a transactional thing like throw it over the fence and let the controls person program what the other engineer told them to. You have to understand it, otherwise you're going to miss things.
Gotcha. So what is it about controls that hooked you? Like when did you go from this is cool to I want to own this space?
Yeah, so when those guys at Daisy Brand took me under their wing, they
Mm-hmm.
they basically gave me a whole project. It was an upgrade from a slick control system, all Rockwell, to control logics, and it was a pasteurizer. So it was high temperature, short time, HTST, to process the milk to make sour cream. And so they wanted to upgrade this system. They gave me that whole project, taught me the basics, and let me run with it. And so me being able to write the code, commission, start running milk through the lines was where it was like, whoa, I did that. Like, this is so cool. This is way beyond anything that I ever imagined I would be doing. And I was 22 years old. It was crazy. So yeah, I wanted to learn more.
So with those engineers that took you under their wing, like one of the things that I try to emphasize a lot within this sector is mentorship. So was that mentorship intentional on your end, or is it something that you carved out, or was it just like a natural thing that happened at that company where they were like, okay, this is the new person here, we're going to help her be successful? And, you know, the second part of that question is, how has that helped shape you, how you lead today?
Yeah. So I was hired at Daisy Brand to be like a liaison between the manufacturing operations team and engineering. And obviously I wanted to move into engineering, but I didn't really know what that looked like. And so I was always showing interest, and I was like, teach me about valves. And I was reading the valve handbook and asking just tons of questions. And so I think that's probably what showed those guys that I had the interest. I don't know how they thought that I had so much potential, because I really didn't show them much other than curiosity. But for whatever reason, they basically took a chance on me and spent some time giving me lots of responsibility, but with really good guidance on the foundations. And so that has absolutely shaped how I want to lead and mentor. I think mentorship is so important, and I want to help engineers in that same way. It's very hard to find that balance of teaching them enough to allow them to have responsibility in an environment where you can be safe to fail, because you learn best if you can kind of go out on your own versus do this, then that, then that. You need to be able to understand the why. But it's a really hard balance, especially when you're in a big company, you've got all these projects on your docket, you hire somebody and you just got to get work done. So I've spent a lot of time, and I have an intern this summer, kind of trialing out different ways of giving them projects, and what parts do I teach? What parts do I let him learn for himself? And, you know, just this week, he connected the HMI to the PLC, and he's starting to get excited, and like things are clicking in his brain. And I'm like, this is exciting, you know, but there's so much to learn.
So with all of your experience, because you've worked with several different types of companies, you've worked in several different areas of each company, you've worked, you know, you've hired people, you've led people, you mentioned before that you've done the startup, you've worked with major corporations. What did you learn about yourself during that stretch of your career? Because that's a lot of different like aspects and perspectives, from the size of the company that you worked with and the various positions and subject matter that you were working with as well. What have you learned about yourself throughout that time?
I learned that I have the capacity to take on a lot, and I have the ability to see things from a higher level, at like a system level. So by being at all these different companies who do things differently, I've been able to kind of like pick and choose what works and what doesn't work, and understanding that different people need different leadership, and you can get better results out of people if you understand their strengths, their weaknesses, and you can't lead everybody the same. And so at Redwood, it was insane. We were going so fast, and I was there building this stuff from scratch, building out a team, doing it all. I was able to do it. And I'm really still shocked that I could work in such a crazy environment where speed over anything else was so important. But I know where to draw the lines too. So I can work with ambiguity. It's fine. I'm going to go make something happen. You tell me what we got to do. We're going to go do it. We're going to build panels in shorter time than anybody's ever built panels before. But I'm going to hold my line when it comes to safety or something that's going to make maintenance techs jobs harder because they're not going to be able to access a valve, or, so I take all that information I've learned from all of these places and pick and choose my battles essentially, but I'm able to make things happen very rapidly because I've seen so much and I know shortcuts and I know ways to do things, but holding that line, like I am not going to back down when it comes to safety.
So it sounds like with, being able to understand that people need to be led in different ways based off of like maybe their own personal experiences or their own personalities, how are you able to adjust and adapt to those different types of personality types so that you can be that great and efficient leader that they need to be successful?
It happened right away. I made a lot of mistakes when I first became a manager, thinking that I could treat everybody like they're mini Alicias and they're going to excel in the same ways I excelled, had struggles in the same ways. And I still talk to one of the guys that I led that I got it all wrong. I definitely pushed him in the wrong ways and he forgives me. But you really, it takes time and it takes talking and being very candid to your employees and really just carving out time, even if you're seeing them, talking to them every day, carving out time to sit down and be like, what's working and what's not working? Tell it to me honest. And I'm very transparent. People know that about me. I'm going to tell it like it is and I want to receive it like it is. So it's just making that space to get that feedback and then we can course correct, because at the end of the day, I care about the person. I care about the results. And, we're going to be way more successful if we can figure out that combination.
Very cool. Earlier so we talked once before this episode. I do pre-briefings with all of my guests, and during that conversation, you mentioned the bro culture. Can you explain how you would define that, and how has it helped you navigate some tension moments within your career? And do you think that is something that sort of still exists today? Like, do you still see it around?
Yeah, I honestly didn't see the bro culture as much until I joined the startup space. And then it was pretty consistent there. And what it means to me is you've got your buddies, you've got your pals, you're like ego, and the loudest person in the room will sometimes win over competence. And it's like playing this political game of I'm going to suck up to the boss. And even if that means throwing my team under the bus, and it's kind of pushing away integrity, which I think is so important. And so people like myself who not afraid to speak up, not afraid to tell it like it is, not afraid to fight for the right things, and often puts my team first and will defend them, it's very apparently intimidating to the bros. So I end up in the crossfire a lot. And yeah, it exists and it sucks because it creates bad leadership. It creates bad engineering. Decisions are made because somebody was the loudest person in the room, but they don't know what they're talking about. And it holds people back that are honest like myself, and it almost forces people to make a decision. Do you want to be like Alicia, who gets in trouble and people don't seem to like it even though she's highly successful and her team respects her and does great work, or do you want to go play the game and go suck up to the bros? But you have to know what your line is on an integrity level. I think if you climb the ladder, you have to play the political game a little bit. There's some of that you do have to do in any corporation, but you have to know where your line is. And I've held my line pretty strong. And sure, maybe I could be a VP at some company right now if I would have played the game more, but I would have sold my soul, and that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for incoming engineers, especially women engineers? Because right now on a global scale, we're only representing like 15 to 16% in engineering as women. Do you have any advice for that newer generation coming into engineering, and even current generations? Because I know there are some women who are thinking about leaving this sector, and we don't want that to happen. So what advice can you give them to kind of just, avoid, well, maybe not avoid, but have some solution to that bro culture feel?
Yeah, I think that it's important to call it like it is and understand that it's happening, and then figure out ways to deal with it that allows you to stay true to yourself. So I would encourage mentorship. So I have a lot of mentees and they text me and say, this happened at work, by the way, what do you think? How should I handle it? So seeking a mentor that's been in the industry, I think, is very valuable. And yeah, I want to figure out ways to prevent people from leaving, because I've seen a lot of people leave because it is tough. And you do have to stand up, and you do have to be uncomfortable sometime, but it's building that confidence in your skill set, understanding that you are actually good and you deserve to be listened to, being confident when you do speak up. I'm one of those people, I'm not going to say anything. So I was pretty quiet in my 20s. And then in my 30s, I started to get a lot louder because I knew what I was talking about. And then just getting that mentorship, people to bounce ideas off of. And I think it's valuable. And once you may have to prove yourself every time to the bros, but every time you do prove yourself, even people that didn't like me back in the day, they'll still call me up. Oh, I saw you started your own business. You were a badass. And I'm like, you hated me. Like, your work speaks for itself.
Yeah, that's cool. I do want to pull up Hank real quick. Hank says, hi, can't stay on today as I'm on site in Prince Rupert, British Columbia. We'll listen later. That's awesome. Hank has 2 little girls, Peyton and Aiden, that listen into Mavens of Manufacturing, and they get inspired by all the women that are on here. So Peyton and Aiden, make sure you follow Alicia. She's really cool. And if you have questions, just reach out to her and she'll answer any for you. Alicia, are there specific things that you're doing with women specifically to really help them not only just stay in engineering, but thrive, especially in roles like controls that aren't talked about all the time or early enough in high school?
When I'm hiring, I just try to hire the best person. And what that ends up being is a team full of diverse people. So, I mean, even at Redwood, I had 2 women, but then I had a lot of people from other countries that were here on visas. So we had a very diverse team. So that's one thing that I can do is, continue to hire diversity and bring in the right talent and give them that chance. And then show them like what it looks like to be a leader in this space. That's what I try to do every day, is show people what integrity looks like and what hard work looks like, getting out into the trenches and, showing my people that I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty too. I want to do more. So me and my friend Justine started a podcast called Manufacturing, which is to basically tell the stories of what it's like in manufacturing, but also talk a little bit about some of the bad stuff that happens and how women are treated and how we can fight back and have tactics to make things better. So I'm trying to do a lot of different things, having a lot of mentees, whatever that looks like, but I want to do more. So I have a lot of ideas rolling around in my head on how do we get more of these conversations happening? How do we get more people to be able to step up into these roles and not be pushed out or pushed away or scared?
That's really cool. I like that you started a podcast to have that type of conversation. And I feel like too, because things have been the way that they have been for so long, there's that sense of awkwardness to even have these types of conversations. So I feel like if you can get over that uncomfortableness and that awkwardness, it's easier for everybody to participate in conversations like this, and just not assume that there's like malicious intent or anything from either side. So I'm glad that you set that up. I do want to talk about your new chapter, because you did mention that you recently just went on your own, and you said you're living in the discomfort and not having a W-2 job. So what does it feel like building something without a safety net right now? How are you working that out, and what are some of the things that you're having fun with and some of the things that are stressing you out?
It's a lot of anxiety and therapy. Yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a lot of years, but I've been scared because I really do appreciate the W-2 job and the security. Health insurance is insanely expensive when you're out on your own. So, but what's really helped me is my network. So there's the automation network just via LinkedIn and through all the conferences. I know you know a lot of these people. They're amazing. So many people jumped out and were like, oh, how can I help you? Let me loan you this license, or do you want to work on this project with me? So that's been amazing. And when I'm having down days saying, oh my gosh, this is scary, what's my next job going to be? I reach out to those guys and they're like, oh, you're fine. Like, I've got some work coming up, or it's going to be okay. You're killing it. You've got lots of clients. Calm down, Alicia, talking me off a ledge. But it's really exciting to be able to get new clients. These clients come out and want to work with me. So I get to take all of that knowledge that I've learned over the years and share it with people. And a lot of my customers are startups that they might come from hardware design and are trying to do chemical processing, or they come from different areas and they know Raspberry Pis, they don't know PLCs. And so I'm able to come in and share that knowledge and then grow the next level of controls engineers from people that maybe didn't even think they would be doing controls engineering. So that's been extremely rewarding to be able to work, because I've always been an end user, just working at one company, which big companies with lots of big projects, that's why they had controls teams. But this allows me to go into different sectors and help a vast number of people and companies be successful. And that just makes me very happy. And along the way, I'm developing people as well. So I think I need to figure out like how I can keep my leadership side going. And I find little ways, but that's probably the one biggest thing I miss right now, is not being able to have a huge team, because I can't grow my business that fast to all of a sudden hire 10 people. So I've got to establish it first.
Do you remember the moment, and can you talk about it a little bit, where you finally made that leap? Because I remember when I wanted to just pursue Mavens full time, I was scared as hell. I know I didn't have the consistent income coming in, but it was just like this gut feeling. And I finally went up to my manager at the job that I was at, and I was like, I really need to pursue this. And I think I'm going to leave. So I want to give you my 2-week notice. And I was completely surprised, but appreciated her response, where she's like, you got this, and I'm so proud of you. Like, she encouraged me to actually quit and not like take back. Yeah. So do you remember that specific moment for you when you were like, I'm just going to do it and I'm going to start my business?
So I was kind of prepping while I was at one of my jobs. I was like, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna make sure that this startup's successful and do my part, but I'm also gonna like plan for my escape so that I can start my business. But it kind of happened quicker. It didn't happen on my timeline. Me and that company parted ways. It's kind of my thing now, is like I stand up and I fight for safety, and then they're like, oh, I don't like you saying these things. So I kind of got pushed into it a little faster than I thought, but it felt like the perfect moment after having that happen a couple of different times, where I fought for safety and the people didn't like it. But I'm not backing down kind of thing. It's like, okay, now I need to own my own destiny. So it was time. And I had already been talking to a few clients trying to get people lined up. So I was able to get work right away. And so it was pretty nice transition, and it was just kind of the nature telling me it was time. So it's still really uncomfortable, but we're doing it.
But if you want to talk about signs, that's like the perfect sign to receive. It boggles my mind that people are getting so like upset with you on prioritizing safety, because I feel like that should be a big thing with what you do and all of the processes that you work with. Like, what's their pushback on that? Like, why are they getting all bothered by safety?
I think that they hear safety and then they use things like, oh, but there's so many safety factors, or, oh, this is going to slow us down. They equate doing the right thing with slowing them down. And in this startup culture, it's very, we have to go. Let's reimagine engineering, but that gets used as an excuse to not do the right thing. So we were talking about hydrogen that can explode, and I was pushing back on a sensor that gets up to like 700 degrees C in a hydrogen line. And what's there to fight about, right? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. There's all these codes related to hydrogen safety, and it's because there's a real risk. And we had safety consultants and all these things backing me up, but they just didn't want to hear it. And so I really think that there's this cloak of, we're a startup, we're going to reimagine engineering, and it just unlocks bad engineering design or putting your people at risk. And I see it over and over again, and it's really scary.
That is scary. You don't want to cut corners when it comes, because in the long run, that's just going to cost you more, and it's just going to delay things if you have a serious. I had someone approach me on a project to doing some technical manuals for them, and they were already translated from one language to the next. And I was like, well, how accurate is the translations? Do they need to have a second person look at them who is an engineering like specialist, but also experienced in translating from this language to English. And they were like, well, we were told they were accurate enough. And I'm like, nope, I'm not touching them because I don't want to be responsible if something bad happens. So like you have to make sure that they're 100% accurate and not like 85 or 95%. Because if I write something that isn't translated appropriately, that could just be horrible for whoever's reading the manual. So like, yeah, it just boggles my mind how they're like, good enough, we can move forward. And it's like, no, you have people
Yeah.
that are touching
I'm
this
glad
and it could. So yeah,
I'm glad
that's
you
crazy.
pushed back and stood up because you being the last one to touch it, that's you all over it. And
Yeah.
there's this thing called engineering ethics. Like I don't care if my boss tells me to do it anyway. If I know it could result in somebody dying or, losing a limb or something, I'm not going to do it. Like that's just
Yes.
insane.
We got to bring the human back. Well, one of the things I want to talk to you about too is this gap in education. So, what is frustrating to you about the current pipeline in controls? Because I feel like everybody, no matter what industry they're in, they're complaining about not having enough talent or not getting people in the seats quick enough. So what's frustrating you right now in terms of getting the right people in the right seats?
Yeah, there's just not a dedicated degree for it in a lot of cases. I think the closest thing we have is mechatronics or robotics, mechanical engineering degrees. I think in the 2-year colleges, there's a few more specialized for controls, but it kind of depends on who the teachers are and did they come from industry? Because I heard a story the other day where a community college teacher for a controls class said, oh, you don't need to learn structured text because everybody uses ladder. You'll literally never see it in the field. And it's like, okay, that's a lie. Now you just set up that whole class to like not learn something that they're going to need for their career. So it's about how do we get the industry leaders to be able to teach these classes? Because otherwise you're just depending on the Toms at Daisy Brand that took me under their wing and taught me this stuff. So, and other have degree programs. So I think we need a lot of different solutions here. We need to make sure that the programs that are out there are available to everyone and that they have the appropriate curriculum and are partnered with industry folks. We need to figure out, do we need a university degree for this, or at least like a specialization or more industry folks to go be professors? What does even that look like? And then more companies figuring out how to take kids right out of school and teaching them controls, because otherwise our pipeline's dying.
Yeah, it is. I just had a conversation with someone from the manufacturing institution, and one of the things that he mentioned, his name is Tony Davis for anyone interested, but one of the things that he did mention, he's like, this is such a massive problem. And he's like, it's not the same exact problem across communities, because depending on where you are in the United States, the manufacturing is going to be different and the needs are going to be different. So there really needs to be a ton of conversations on the community level with, like you mentioned, the people who are in the industry and the ones teaching the new employees that are coming in, because none of that's getting documented. All of that tribal knowledge, that's going to be walking out the door soon, but they need to be set up to partner with these educational institutions so that they can say, okay, this is what's actually happening on our trade show or not trade show floor, but shop floor. And this is where you're missing the mark in terms of your curriculum. And I think that's going to constantly change too, because of how fast advancements are happening. So yeah, I don't know if there's like a real easy solution to do this, but we do need to do a better job at having these conversations. Do you have any like ideas for where you're at on how that can happen? Like, how can people get connected to one another? Like, because I just tell them, just go out there and put your boots to the ground and be more proactive. And for some reason, some people think that's the hardest thing to do, and I'm like, it's really not. Just go outside and start having these conversations. Like, or do you have any ideas or suggestions for people that are struggling to get that talent through the door?
They just have to dedicate time to it. So when I was a manager at Chobani, there were a lot of maintenance techs that wanted to make the leap over to controls, but without controls experience, you're not necessarily even going to be looked at for a controls tech job. So I spent a lot of time doing PLC training classes, VFD classes. Like I had my controls engineers do a lot of that. We brought in a trainer that had, training PLCs and all of that to train the PLC tech or the maintenance technicians that wanted to have that pipeline to potentially come over to my team. And then we did some lectures and helped them understand that once we give you read-only access, you need to understand these things because you need to be educated and you need somebody to bring you along that line. So we kind of created that. But again, that takes someone who is passionate about it to spend time while there's all these other projects going on. So I don't know, maybe we need to come up with a organization or a group of us to figure out how to like partner with companies to make this stuff happen, or Alicia's boot camp or something like that. I've got a lot of ideas like in my head.
Well, you mentioned Tim and Amber Wilborn too in our last conversation, and I just want to shout out to them because they do the PLC training kits. Like they just shared something on LinkedIn where they made a bunch of kits and they had a aerial picture of it, and they're just awesome people. I like Tim and Amber. They do, and Mary works with them as well. I gotta shout out Mary. But yeah, I think if people can just connect with individuals like yourself and Tim and Amber, that's solving part of the problem, and then you can take that into schools. Ali G was doing a kids PLC kits thing for a while. I don't know if she's still doing that, but she was getting parts donated to her so that she could just send these free kits out to educational institutions. So it's work, but it's good work, and we need
it's
more
rewarding.
Yeah,
Inductive Automation is partnering with schools now. So they give free licenses to schools and have a whole program. They have a bunch of schools they're partnering with, and I know they have a whole roadmap of doing more. So Ignition is literally everywhere now. Over 50% of manufacturing sites have Ignition. So now we're getting some of those licenses and that learning to schools, which I think is amazing. Partnering with Frank Lamb, Tim Wilburn, those guys that are so passionate about training, have books, have videos. You can't find somebody that hasn't seen a Tim Wilburn video if they're doing Rockwell,
right.
And
he has stickers all over the damn place too. If you see a red t-shirt, well, now they got the pink ones for Amber.
I have a pink one too.
I do too. I was super excited when I saw her at Automate. I was like, you better give me one of those stickers. Like, I need a pink one. So super cool about that. So for what's coming up for you? I know you mentioned your podcast earlier. When are you doing that now? Like, have you released episodes for that?
Yeah, we have 5 episodes released. We're trying to do it bi-weekly. Sometimes it's guests, sometimes it's just the two of us. But yeah, you can stream it. It's called Whoa Manufacturing, and you can stream it on Spotify, Amazon, Apple.
I know you're only 5 episodes in, but do you have a favorite one right now out of the 5?
Yeah, it's the one with Lola. I think it's episode 3. It gets spicy.
Oh,
we worked together at our last place and dealt with kind of the same BS. But yeah, she's brilliant. She's got a lot of vast experience in mechanical engineering, material science, and she's a badass female engineer. So
I'm gonna have to listen to the article that I write for this episode. I'll make sure to include a link to your podcast as well, so people can start tuning into that. But Alicia, if you had a mic in front of every high school and college engineering student right now, what would be the one thing that you say to them?
So get out there and get the job. There's no perfect path. So you will find your way. Go learn as much as you can from that first job, and then figure out what you like and what you don't like, and then keep pursuing. Take it from me. I've moved jobs a lot, and it's actually worked out really well for me, despite people giving me crap. But you've got to find the place where you can add the most value, and you have to be learning and growing. And if that isn't happening, then you go on to the next. And I think a lot of young kids want to go into management right away. I would really highly encourage you to build your craft and learn technically as much as you can before you try to pursue that, because you're going to be a better leader. You can tell right away when somebody knows how to coach you and help you technically versus someone that just is a manager or people person. And when you're in a technical field like ours, it's the loneliest feeling to know your boss can't help you and you're kind of on your own.
Oh, wow. That's really is scary. Well, I do like the fact that, throughout this conversation, you're talking about the importance of mentorship, finding your voice and using your voice and not being afraid to use your voice, that what your experience is and your value is, that matters. I also like the fact that you are non-negotiable about safety and you are talking about engineering ethics. So I really do appreciate you highlighting those things, because I feel like we don't talk about safety nearly as enough that we do need to talk about it. So that's something I'm going to keep in mind for future episodes. But is there anything else that you want to highlight before I let you go off to the weekend, Alicia?
I would just say, I don't have a ton of extra time, but if there are people that do need mentorship or want to bounce ideas off of me, feel free to reach out. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I have a website, lomasmanufacturing.com, that has a link to my email address. So, and even if I can't spend a ton of time with you, I can hook you up with another mentor. So I just think mentorship is so, so important. And I would love to help men and women, to be fair, find that mentorship to break into this space, and just don't get discouraged. Every day is a new lesson. I'm beating my head up against a wall every day, and I'm showing my interns, see, like, I struggle too, and I've been doing this for 20 years. So it's such a rewarding pathway to go through controls. So if you're considering it, I highly recommend.
You guys are doing some really cool things. Another organization too, and I don't know if you're a part of it, Alicia, but if you look up the Society of Manufacturing Engineers, they also have a women division for that called SWE. So if you're looking for that mentorship or any opportunities to expand on your knowledge and leadership, I know they have some programs. You can also go to the Manufacturing Institute, which I mentioned earlier. They have programs too, especially between manufacturers and the educational institutions within their community. So make sure you guys look that up if you're looking for extra help. But Alicia, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. It was great to have you here on Mavens of Manufacturing. I'm going to put your podcast on my listen list, because I think that's really cool that you have that, and I'll make sure to include those links. But any final words before I let you go?
No, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Awesome. Thanks to everyone tuning in. Just a heads up, I will not be having Mavens of Manufacturing for the next 2 weeks. I am actually going on vacation, so I will be back after July 4th. I hope you guys have a safe holiday weekend during the July 4th weekend. And yeah, just take care of one another, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, everyone. This episode of Mavens has been sponsored by Fresh Horizons Group. Fresh Horizons Group is a family-run company that was founded on the premise of helping organizations and businesses better tell their story through high-quality branded apparel and promotional items. Freshen up your brand by contacting Fresh Horizons today at freshhorizonsgroup.com.